Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you amazing, resilient women out there. If this is your first time joining us here at Kim Talks Resilience, I'm Kim Hayden, your host, and I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your most valuable, non renewable resource, your time. So, here at Kim Talks Resilience, we talk to amazing women from around the world, sharing their stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business, so that we can help other women grow into their best life. So, before we get started, I want to encourage everybody, if you take a chance, do check out queenofresilience.shop. That's queenofresilience.shop. That's my online store where I just kind of throw up, fun, quirky things. And, whatever happens to strike a fancy and get a giggle. So, again, that's queenofresilience.shop. So today's guest is actually, we're going to learn a ton from her because really, I don't have a lot of people going to queenofresilience.shop. And this is a gal who knows how to launch things. So Khierstyn Ross is a competitive runner, which you know that only if I'm right. If you see me running, you better check behind me because we're all in trouble. But Khierstyn Ross is a competitive runner. She is a dog lover and bing, 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 a newlywed, heralding from Canada's financial hub, Toronto. Khierstyn is an e-commerce strategist that specializes in fast early stage growth for online physical product brands using Shopify and Kickstarter. Through her work, Khierstyn has helped launch and scale multiple seven-figure brands such as Jamstack.io, AberLife.com, SearsChill.com, and many others. Khierstyn's clients have been featured in New York Times, Forbes, Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, and many other leading publications. Khierstyn believes in empowering online products creators to build a business that gives them the freedom to fund and create the lifestyle that they want to live in their terms. So let's welcome Khierstyn to the stage. And please tell me I am not the only person that has said Kristen halfway through a presentation.
90% of people say Kirsten. So it's cool. If you look at the way my name is spelled, you can understand why most people screw it up the first time.
Well, it looks almost like a German spelling.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's the very first time I've seen it spelled that way. So you have to give your mom kudos. Definitely creative.
I definitely do. And it's funny because the 3 other Khierstyns on the planet that somehow have their name spelled like me all follow me on Twitter and we're like, hey, I found another one. I didn't think we existed. Very, very, but it's phonetic and there is no background to it being German or whatnot. My mom just wanted something unique and something that people would pronounce it the way it was meant to. So she threw in an H and threw in a Y and confused everyone. But now it's kind of like a good personal one name brand. So
absolutely, it's literally a brand unto itself. Okay, so let's dive in. We now know your mom is creative. We know you're a newlywed, a dog lover, and you like to run. I want to go through a little bit of who you are because I think this really sets the stage as to why we do what we do.
Yeah. Man, this is a hard question because most of the time we in podcast interviews start with what do you do? So who you are. Oh man. So I am an entrepreneur. I am someone who is a business owner, and we'll get into what exactly that looks like in a little bit. I am someone who is extremely competitive. I love pushing myself. I love doing things that my mind freaks out at the thought of doing. So outside of business, I have hiked Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the highest peak in Africa. I've done an Ironman triathlon. I just completed a marathon this past Sunday, which will be 72 hours ago. So I'm still like relying on the coffee to get me through that. I have 2 amazing dogs, and I just got married on the top of a glacier in Whistler a couple weeks ago. So outside of who I am and what drives me, I think that I want to go into I think our childhood and how our parents raised us, me, has a lot to do with why I am how I am. So without getting too in the weeds, my mom is a recovering alcoholic. So growing up, I went through all the the trauma and abuse of what you'd expect of kids that go through that kind of alcoholism in a family, and that tore my family apart at an early age. Where at 4, when I was 4 years old, my parents divorced or started the divorce proceedings, and it was like a super messy custody battle. And I ended up like going to live with my dad, and so my dad at this point is now a single dad, who is has a very demanding engineering job at this point, trying to provide for us, now trying to raise 2 young kids in a legal custody battle that was super messy. So he did the best he could, but of course, with like stress and just trying to provide for the family and stuff like that, I think that I didn't get a lot of attention that I needed as like the oldest kid. And so what that actually drove me, it was the kind of dynamic where I was like, "Hey dad, look, I got like an A on my book report." And he'd always be like, "Great, but can you do it again?" And so I was always someone that didn't think I could ever um like make my dad proud. So I think luckily that pushed me to keep going bigger and bigger and bigger, to be like, "Dad, look what I did now. Look what I did now." And so I think part of I became very achievement oriented, like checking big things off the bucket list, like triathlons and Kilimanjaro and running a successful company, because I was like always like kind of looking for my dad's approval, which is hilarious because now we had this talk and he understands, and now he goes out of his way to be like, "I am proud of you." And I was like, "Don't worry, because you're like this, I am now this person who loves to like do cool stuff." And um it's really interesting how like our trauma from childhood or how we were raised, it's like you have two options. You can let that break you or turn it into something great. And so for me, I was like, I'm gonna turn that into something good. So everything that drives me comes down to that weird upbringing, which is
Yeah.
so funny. So I turned that like failure of a childhood into success as an adult, and I am how I am largely because of that. And the life decisions I made were like because of that early stage, that sort of thing. And like that's what at 18 years old, I had a trait where I was an overachiever. So I would master every job I had at 17 within a month and then look for something else. So because I was like a little antsy, high performer at that point, it started me looking into running a company. And I mean, we'll get into all that, but everything I've accomplished, the what drives me is really because of everything that happened before. But now I've become kind of addicted to the lifestyle of like as soon as um I remember like 2012, I was living in London at the time, the UK, and I was on a date with a guy who had just completed the Boston Marathon. And at this point, he never called me back because the whole date I was like, "How could you do that? I would die. I can never run a marathon. I could never." And it was like that was the track. Is like I can't even imagine myself at this point running more than 5K. And because it was like a non-starter for me. So this guy was like, "I just signed up and I trained and I did a marathon." So anyway, never called me back. But that conversation is the thing that sparked like for 2 weeks after that, I was like, I really didn't like how adamant I was that I couldn't do something. So I decided within 2 weeks that, you know what, maybe I can do that too. So I actually with I was basically on the couch at that point. I signed up for the Prague Marathon 4 months from that point. And that's the thing that took me from I can never do something crazy like that to, "Oh no, I have to figure this out." And magically 4 months later I didn't die. And that was kind of the catalyst that got me into physical fitness. And so anytime I met someone who did an Ironman triathlon in Thailand and I was like, "What is that?" And he tells me what it is. I'm like, "I could never do that." Guess what? A few years later I ended up doing it and realized that I actually enjoyed signing up for like these death challenges and realizing that you can do it with the right training and the right coach. So ever since then, that's just in my 20s, it just kind of became a
Well,
catalyst.
and signing up for those challenges, that actually is what you do on a daily basis for your career because most people don't know the stats when they start something. So,
Mhm.
coaching is a 90% failure rate,
Makes
right?
sense.
That's what
Yeah.
it is, folks. Podcasting is like a 92% failure rate. Most podcasters do not make it past 7 episodes. So we sit there and go, oh, there's, 3 million podcasts. Well, the reality is there's 7 storylines. So let's divide that down. And then
Yep.
there's how many people on this earth. So really, that's not a lot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people get stopped. So the things I heard is that, you learned very early how to become a problem solver and create your own space because
Yes.
there was problems going on and you had to figure out a way to navigate it. Because you had the influence of engineering and structure around you,
Yeah.
you started to apply some
Mhm.
things and just navigating and pushing to next level. Like
Yeah,
that, like everything was like the perfect formula. And
it
it
was.
sounds to me that you've kind of used the language around the why not me instead of the why me. Majority of people, our natural tendency is to go to the negative,
I know. Yeah.
whereas you flipped the switch and went to the positive. So why not
Mhm.
me? If this can happen over here, why can this over here not happen? Right? So
Yeah.
let's dive into what you do. So let's dive into the brand launching,
Love it.
and because a lot of people, like myself, will have a Shopify store and not know what to do with it. We just want to park cool stuff on there, right?
Yeah.
And because I hear quotes and I get really great things like, "Come on, mother hustlers get it done." I heard that from one of my guests, and it's like,
Love
"Oh,
that.
that's a T-shirt. That's a
Love that.
T-shirt." But so, the reality is people are looking for people who lead.
Yeah.
People are looking for people who create. And there's a lot of leaders and creators out there that
Mhm.
never get seen or heard. And yet you get them seen and heard. So
Yeah.
walk me through what you do.
Yeah. So I am the CEO and founder of Launch and Scale. We are a online resource for physical product sellers to launch and scale new brands. So in a nutshell, we help take brands from the 0 to $3 million a year mark online. How we do that, we have coaching programs. We also have a marketing agency that will partner with certain brands to actually lead their marketing and strategy efforts. Um, in terms of distilling what we do a lot of launches on Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding platform. We do a lot of launches on Shopify, and we work with existing Shopify sellers they have a great product, but they realize that they're someone who just had a great idea, but they don't actually know how to do the marketing, or they don't want to do the marketing. So they partner with someone to help get them traction when they're in market. So in a nutshell, that is what we do.
Okay, you finished way faster than I thought you would. So,
Oh, very literal.
because to me, it's such a complex issue.
Oh my God.
It is such a complex issue. So take me through the top 3 product killers. What are the
Okay.
top 3 things people do that kill their brand before they can be found? How does that sound? And then we're gonna go into the top 3 solutions.
Oh, this is gonna be a TikTok video after, by the way.
Okay,
Oh,
awesome!
love this. Okay, top 3 product killers. Number 1, assumptions are not reality. So when someone has a product idea, they create a product for them. Let's just say a lot of people create a product to solve a need in their own life. They then assume that everyone's like them, or they assume who their customer is. They assume essentially the why someone's going to buy their product, and they create this whole company, the whole messaging and branding based off what they think they like, based on what they think their customer is going to like, and they put these assumptions out there. And when feedback comes back that their baby is ugly, they think, oh no, I'm a failure. So assumptions are not reality. It comes down to we have to become emotionally or removed from the equation as product sellers, so that when you have a product and you go to market it, you have to be open to the fact that 95, 97% of the time you are going to be wrong about who your customer is, why they're buying their product, and what they like. So you have to actually Um, this is kind of like a multifaceted answer because it's like you have to be open to being wrong, and you have to understand that what you're putting out there when you market is a hypothesis, and you have to be open to adapting and not taking the feedback personally. So that's like number one. I feel like there might be some overlap in these. Okay, but anyway, number one. Number two, they quit too early. So when it comes to optimizing any platform, what I mean by that is you put your product up on Shopify and you're like, okay, I'm going to start posting some TikTok videos to sell my product, or I'm going to do Google ads, or I'm going to list my product on Amazon. Whichever one of those silos you're doing takes 3 to 6 months of consistent effort, consistent failing before you start to see traction and start to see results. Unfortunately, online gurus and our want results and like yesterday culture means that when you have a cool product and you start to get it on Amazon, post your first TikTok video, do your first Facebook ad, whatever that looks like, most of us, 99.9% of the time, you have no experience. You don't get the result you want in the first couple of weeks. You've spent a couple $100 and you freak out because you're like, this isn't working for me. So we need to give a channel adequate time to start to work. You have to know that, and this comes with experience, this comes with hiring a marketing agency to set you up for these kind of like expectations, but it comes down to you got to give a channel 3+ months to work. And if it doesn't work right away, that's normal. You're not a failure. And just because Facebook ads don't work right away with $100 spent does not mean your product sucks. Okay.
That's everybody listen up. Listen, because that right there is gold. So keep going.
Point number three, just because things don't work immediately does not mean your product sucks. How I got into crowdfunding and product launches was back in 2015. I partnered up with the founder of my first crowdfunding campaign. And we made all the mistakes in the book because we had egos and we didn't know what we didn't know. So we launched this product and it failed. It failed because in crowdfunding terms, we set a goal of raising $50,000 in 1 month. We raised $17,000 in 1 month, which means
Wow.
we didn't have enough money to actually create the product, to manufacture and do anything. So we, in crowdfunding terms, failed and were dead in the water. And at this point, we had two options. We're like, look, we either give up on the product because obviously this failure means product sucks, right? Go back to point number two.
Mm-hmm.
Or what if it's our execution and maybe like our strategy going into this was the thing that sucked? It was a weight loss product. How can a weight loss product not do well? We didn't understand. So we decided like, hey, maybe what if we assume it's not the product, but the way that we packaged it and like did the launch? So we ended up changing stuff and relaunching 3 months later. And we went from a huge failure to a mega success. That first month, we raised $600,000 with 5,000 backers. That taught me lesson number three, which is it may not be your product that fails. It may be your approach, your marketing, or not giving it enough time to work. So, and I think that we as creators, because we create these products that we think are going to be amazing, at the first point of contention, the first bad review, the first something not working, we think, oh my gosh, did I just sink my life savings into this and it's a failure? Oh no, I should probably go back to my day job. And that's how ideas die. That's how great products die. Because we are too emotional with our work and we don't understand the process and we don't have the resilience to go and see what it takes to really build something.
So that brings me around to Napoleon Hill, 3 feet from gold. And everybody has these assumptions of these overnight successes. And shoot me now, people. Seriously, there is no such thing as an overnight success. There is no such thing as an overnight. Can we all say this together? There is no such thing as an overnight success.
One more time.
One more time. So I do agree with you because I think actually most ideas. Even the Floby. Do you remember the Floby? Oh
Mm-mm.
my God. See, you're way too young. Oh my God. I was a hairdresser in my former years when I was 19 years old
Yeah,
in Wichita, Kansas, basically in a trailer park, single mom. So very
love it.
stereotypical. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
The Floby was this vacuum type of thing. It was like a reverse blow dryer that had trimmers on the end, and
Oh
you
my
can run it over the head, and it
Okay.
would give you this perfect layered cut. That's why all these layered cuts. I mean, seriously, folks. I mean, I was sitting here waiting for the Floby to come back during COVID because it would have solved everybody's haircut issues. But
Oh,
we,
not
I
at
mean,
all.
we had one for my grandfather. It was awesome. Floby was awesome. But who would have thought a vacuum with trimmers would have been, think about it.
Yeah.
The ShamWow guy. Seriously, folks,
Oh
the
my gosh.
ShamWow guy, right? So
Trade shows. Oh,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I believe there's an audience for almost everything. I
Mhm.
really do. It's understanding the hook, the story, and the sell. How do you hook, story, close? And there is
Yeah.
a psychology to this that most of us miss because we're attached or we don't understand what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Um, but I do know that most people are 3 feet from gold. And once you start getting close, you're 2 feet, and you're a foot, then you're three-quarters of a foot, then you're half a foot. And it's that it has to get really uncomfortable
Mhm.
for it to come to fruition. You do not run a marathon because it's comfortable.
Not at all.
Comfort is the opposite. You can either be comfortable or you can grow, but you cannot be both at the same time. You just can't.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So let's go into the top 3 solutions for somebody who has an online product. And let's clarify this real quick. Can the product also be a digital or service
Yes.
based okay. So, and
Everything.
I want to clear that up because I have a lot of coaches that follow this show
Yeah.
because we do a lot of how to move forward in our business.
I love
So
that.
great. So product, physical, digital, and service.
Yeah. This
Awesome.
applies to all of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Top 3 things somebody can do to
Top 3.
make a
Okay.
success. Top
Let's
3
run
for
through there.
success.
Yeah. So top 3. Number 1, where do we start? Let's do okay. Talk to your customer. Okay. When you have an idea for something, validate it. Okay. What I mean by validate, there's different kinds of validation. You can get somebody to pay for your idea. You can get somebody to say that's a great idea. Ultimately, people vote with their wallets. So if we tailor this to an online coaching group, for example, I uh okay, so I used to joke, maybe I still joke, that because I do Kickstarter campaigns, I help people sell stuff that doesn't exist yet. Which mean because Kickstarter is a pre-sale model where customers give you money in advance, you then get your product funded and you go manufacture and deliver your product 2 to 4 months later. So when I started coaching and making that like a practice with our clients, when I launched our digital coaching program and any service in the future, I would pre-sell it. Like when I was looking to, especially with COVID, when the market's pivoting and stuff like that, like we internally would see a shift toward short form video, a shift toward TikTok ads, a shift toward whatever that looks like. And before I designed this huge coaching program to help people do X, Y, Z, I was like, you know what? Let's do a beta and let's test. So I would have a hypothesis of, okay, I see that people need help doing X, and we have a really good formula for doing that. So why don't we put a launch together and we see if there's traction, if there's interest. So we spend about a week, we do this launch, and if it sells, we build the program. If it doesn't sell, that's data, and we move on to something else. So experienced product creators, when you're doing this for an online or for a physical product, there's a lot more that you need to put into doing it. You need to get prototyping, you need molding, you need months and months of back and forth with the factory. So before you sink your time into a good idea, I do recommend that you do some level of market validation to make sure that there is enough market demand for your product before you pay the manufacturer, before you sink your money into something. Because like we've all heard the horror stories of, I got this great idea, I now have 20,000 boxes in my basement that I can't move. We want to help you avoid that. So validate an idea before you commit to it. Validation can take on different forms. We do help people do that. So that is point number one: is don't get married to an idea, test it. Number two, if you have never done this before and you are now doing this and you validated your product, you have to know that you're going to fall on your face several times, and you have to be open to being wrong. And you have to know that this is going to be a brutal, painful process, but you need to stay focused on why you're doing this. One of my all-time favorite case studies is Series Chill. Lisa, as a full-time lawyer, partner in her law firm, 2 young kids, husband overseas in the Army, launched a company that 2.5 years later hit 7 figures. Her product is a breast milk chiller that helps mom be able to pump on the go. She has pushed herself more than anyone else I know in the space. Sleepless nights, 20 hours a week, building a team, had a great product. She knew this was going to be really hard, and she figured it out as she went. I bring up Lisa because she is someone who made the conscious effort to not quit her job and to sacrifice a couple of years to build something truly amazing so that she can become a full-time CEO, which she did recently. So shout out to Lisa. But one of the only big thing that changes or that differentiates someone from Lisa from other people is that she knew it would be hard, and she just doubled down. If she's like, I don't have the time to do social media, she found somebody to help her with that. If she didn't have the time to do whatever, she figured it out. Whereas there's another person that I get on a phone call, and they're like, yeah, I would love to do that, but I don't have time. I was like, you have a part-time job. You don't have time because you're not making time. So having success comes down to, you do have to make sacrifices, but you need to be in the framework of, just because you don't know how right now doesn't mean you can't find a solution. So you have to be open to finding a solution. So that's point number 2. So we've talked about point number 1 is validate before committing. Point number 2 is know it will be hard, but just work through it anyway. Point number 3, honestly, surround yourself with people who are doing what you're doing. I am in a mastermind program led by Rachel Peterson, who is a huge social media guru. And in the last 18 months before that, I felt like I was alone, and that the problems I was going through were my own and nobody else was going through that. As soon as I chose to join a mastermind full of other people who were doing very similar things to me, I was like, I could text and say am I crazy? But this is how I feel today. Or this thing isn't working for me. What the heck? And 10, 15 other people are like, feel the same. Here's how we went through that. And you start to feel not alone in your journey. You start to know that what you're going through is normal, and you do have access to other people, a coach, community, etc., to help guide you through that process, to know that no, everything you're going through, your partner may not understand, your friends may not understand, because they're not in it with you. So having access to a supportive community, or even a best friend, or someone who is your business bestie that is also going through that, helps you stay fresh and focused, because you know that when you're going through the grind, it's normal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just recently joined a group, Marissa Murgatroyd. I want to talk about her a bit. She does, and this is not a plug, folks. This is just somebody that I've come across recently and mind blown. And her stats are really interesting.
Okay.
So from 2012 to 2017, she did nearly $500,000 in sales. That sounds like a lot, but that's not when you break
Mhm.
it down. Plus, out of that 500,000, it was 430,000, I think is what it was, US. So that's like
Yeah.
$1,000,000 Canadian. But today it is.
Yeah.
But out of that, she also had like an 18% refund rate. Because that's something we
Whoa.
don't talk about is refund rates are actually very high in courses and new products. Most people don't talk about this. So you think you have 430, 50, 80, 500,000, but you really only have about 390, right? So
Yeah.
she did this. She did this and she kept plugging away and kept plugging away and kept plugging away. In 2017, the mind psychology of purchasing, actually, she was introduced to a coach
Yeah.
that changed her view on everything she was doing, and she sunk in deep and hard.
Yeah.
Now, since 2018, she has done nearly $30 million in sales.
That 1% change.
It is. And it was literally came from exactly what you just mentioned as your number three.
Mhm.
And that is invest in the space of where you align and grow.
Yeah.
So push and pivot. Be prepared to pivot, folks. Pivot fast, pivot hard, and push yourself. If something's not working, it's not because it's a bad idea. It's because maybe you have narrowed into that silo of thinking. You're not aligning with your buddies that can help move you forward, right? We're not talking to people within our space. The reality is if you truly are an entrepreneur and a creator, truly, through and
Mhm.
through, you're only about 20% of the population.
Yeah.
And out of that 20%, only 10% will actually push it to the finish line of true profitability. So do you see how those spaces get smaller and smaller and smaller? And that's why we keep tripping over the same people, because
Mhm.
success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Um, and talking to customers, I mean, and that I think that's the hardest, scariest thing for most entrepreneurs
Oh, it
is
yeah, I get that.
yeah, getting out there and knowing that you probably are gonna have that push pivot kind of motion come in play, and if you
Yep.
don't have if you don't have your study buddy with you, it can be quite painful to figure out, how do I rip the Band-Aid off? What are
Yeah.
some of this? So we talked about Sears Chill, which is
Mhm.
very cool. I think I went back to work when my oldest was 3 weeks old because that's how you do things in the States.
Yeah.
I was blessed to be at home for 15 months with my middle child. And
Mhm.
then by the time I had the third one, I'm like, going, just strap this baby to the boob. I am running. I am
Ha!
running, right?
Yep. Yep.
And 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 so now to know that there's options because somebody saw a need, right? And that's
Yeah.
really what it is. Entrepreneurs, creators see a need
Yeah.
and fill it. What are some of the things that you do uniquely for your clients that helps push them over the line? And not the bad way, folks. We're not
Ooh.
pushing them off the cliff. We're pushing them over the
No,
line of success.
fly. No, you must fly. No. Um, okay, so that's hard because I think what we do is very commoditized in terms of there's a billion marketing agencies and there's even more in e-commerce. So what I look to do is just differentiate based on the service and how we treat our clients. So I know from the get-go that I only want to have an agency with 10 clients, 10 brands we work with. I don't want to have an 8-figure agency. I don't want the agency to be our front end, because I made the conscious choice to work with more brands and have more impact, which means that I want to set up my business so that our coaching programs, our courses, etc., books, digital products, blah, 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 is the front end. And that's the moneymaker in the business, which frees us up to work with 10 brands that we are obsessed with, that we love. So for me, I never want to have an agency where I have 5 account managers talking to the clients and I don't have any say in strategy and I have no idea what's going on. I don't want that kind of company, because I think that part of what keeps me fresh, what keeps me excited, is being able to be in the trenches with a select number of brands. So, number one big difference is that right now I'm not removed from the brands that we work with, right? So, number one, and I think that a lot of agency owners are removed. And that means that with us, you're actually getting my 7 years of experience, my brand building expertise on your account, not just some intern who was just hired outside of college. Number one. Number two, because of my background before I got into e-commerce, I worked with a franchise in Canada that helped recruit and train um, university students into running a business in the summer. And because I was then a coach for these guys, I was actually recruiting 18-year-old students that had no business experience and teach them how to be a successful 6-figure business owner, which included teaching them how to sell, teaching them how to market, teaching them how to project manage, how to hire, train, run the entire company. So when people now come in, it's kind of funny, because when we sell something, like, we are a full service agency, but when we come in and just sell like just Facebook ads for somebody, or just TikTok, or like one small thing, part of my, it's like my brain help can't not help them with the whole marketing and sales side of the business, because it's not. And I think that's what makes us different, is that we've incorporated consulting into all of our services. So even if someone is coming in for ads or a full Kickstarter launch or whatever, like, we're like, here is a training program, you need access to this, because just because we're doing ads, ads may not work if you don't fix your funnel, or you're not doing email marketing, so that hurts everything we're doing, so you've got to clean up this other side. So we don't just see, we're not a service provider, we're someone that's like, we will help you with specific services, but if we see something that's hurting the whole thing, because I'm a holistic business coach, whatever, like, I have to say something, otherwise it's going to hurt what we're doing for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
writing, just so you know, if I look down, it's not because I've lost interest. It's because I have a glass desk and I'm
Oh,
writing notes. And
good.
now I just took pictures so I'd actually have those notes in perpetuity, because I've made so many notes
I love
with
it.
this. I've literally filled my entire area.
I've been
Entire
taking
area.
notes too.
Awesome. This is what people who are growing do, is we take notes and then we investigate. Let's talk about a time of resilience. And
Let's do it.
I think you have so many of them. Can you share a time of resilience that without that moment, that pivotal point, you would not be having this conversation with me?
Ooh, COVID. I remember at the start of COVID, it was like at that point in March when things were starting to explode, March 2020. We had a successful company. We were doing about 20K a month at that point. And overnight, we lost everything. Our income went down to zero, because at that point, the economy and our customers were like, we don't know if the world's going to implode tomorrow. So we have to stop everything. And so we went from zero overnight. And at this point, we had been consistent in our revenue for 5 years. Everything was great. But overnight, gone. And then 6 weeks go by where the markets and people are figuring out that maybe it's not world ending. And oh, guess what? Because people are stuck at home, online shopping's going up. So we need to start investing in e-commerce now. So we went from like losing everything to 6 weeks later having our best month ever, and things just kind of, going from there. So that's one critical moment where I think because I lost everything and then gained it back again, I learned the this is so dumb now, but like I'm very stubborn and it takes me a long time to learn stuff, learn real lessons. So at that point, I was like, all right, because we can lose everything overnight, which I didn't think was possible, I need to now start saving and actually having that rainy day fund that they all tell entrepreneurs to have, but no one pays attention to. So started building that up. And it's like I actually learned how to learn that I actually wanted this business to work versus just being like, oh yeah, whatever. Like just I think before that point, I wasn't super clear or intentional about what I was building. And after losing everything and then seeing it come back, I saw it as like a second chance to rebuild the way I wanted to. So that's like one big moment is,
That's awesome.
you know,
And that's that rebound, that resilience, and that's what really makes the difference because, um, like I said, Marissa would not have. I think she's sitting actually at 33, almost $33 million, had she given up 5 years into the journey.
can
What
you
she did is
imagine?
she ripped off the Band-Aid
Yeah.
and she said, "Okay, this isn't working any longer. What's wrong?" And she didn't take it personal. She shifted the dialogue. She shifted the paradigm. What's a book you think every woman in business should read?
Well, I love yours by James Clear, Atomic
Yeah.
Habits, but I am obsessed with Expert Secrets with Russell Brunson.
Oh yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Um,
Everybody, the click funnel guru, man. He is. He was
obsessed.
offered $1 billion for his company 24 months ago, and he said no, thank you, because he just wanted to build it bigger.
I
So,
would be devastated the day Russell steps away from ClickFunnels.
oh, he's so fun. He's so
I just
fun.
love
If
him.
you guys haven't had a chance or you don't know who Russell is, I want you to look up ClickFunnel founder Russell Brunson. He is so fun to watch. His YouTubes are incredible, and if you haven't watched his talk about how he sold the potato guns and then sold the instructions to the potato guns, you're missing out. You're so missing out.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Give us all your
Yeah.
socials.
If you want to learn more about e-commerce, working with us, etc., two places. Our website is where everything is, launchandscale.co, not .com, .co. And if you want to check out some of our content, we have hundreds of videos on YouTube. You can go to YouTube, put in my name or Launch and Scale, and I will come up. Those would be the two places. Obviously, like we live online with a bunch of other stuff, but those are our two main hubs right now.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. And then I'd love for you to close out the show today with a quote that inspires you.
Any Tim Ferriss fans in the house? If so, my favorite is one can steal ideas, but no one can steal execution or passion. That's my favorite quote.
That is so good. That is so good. Like
Yeah.
Shakespeare says, there's only 7 original storylines, but there's no two voices alike. And by the way, that two voices is my add-on to
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But you know what, Khierstyn, I really appreciate your time, and I know that somebody out there in this world, your voice, your insight, your instruction that you gave today is actually going to change their world. And that's really cool when I get the opportunity to have conversations with women who are changing the world. And you know, it's little buckets, it's little drops in the bucket add up, and that's what we all have to do. So that's it for today. And I appreciate everybody showing up. Appreciate your time, Khierstyn. You know what? If you feel that your resiliency is lagging, I want you to listen and lean into our resilient community. Be sure to jump over and sign up at resilientgift.com. Totally free. Until next time, I am your host, Kim Hayden, and this is Kim Talks Resilience.